Hey guys, Chris Negley here with Elegant Estates. Today we're going to be doing an interior veneer fireplace. This one's a good one to show you guys. It has a little bit of everything. Some projects we do are pretty straightforward, others not so much. This one's got a little bit of everything going on with angles and pipes and hearth stones and trim, that kind of thing. So hang with us. We're going to show you guys what it's going to take to install it and what to expect if you are a DIYer or what to expect if you hire a contractor to come in and install. So hang tight and we'll be right back. So this is the project that we're looking at today. It's actually a condo at a ski resort. So of course, if you have a wood burning fireplace at a ski resort, I think it's pretty much a requirement that you have stone around it. So they made a good choice. They picked a really nice stone. We're going to be doing this silver travertine. It's a panel style veneer. It's going to look really super sharp when we're done with it. The homeowner actually installed this hearthstone. I really like this hearthstone. I think it's going to go awesome with that travertine. We will be updating that hearthstone. Looks like right now there's going to be, right now they have flagstone that's grouted in. It's an older, and obviously with the new stone coming in, we don't want to leave that. So we're going to be ripping that up. We're going to get a nice solid limestone or sandstone hearthstone in there for them. It's going to be a little wood box over here. Of course, we got shutoffs here. We're going to be closing in some access panels here. We've got some notes on where they want the stone to be. They're actually out of town, so we're going to be doing this while they're gone and minimizing the chaos that sometimes accompanies these jobs. So again, we got the stone box or the wood box right here. There's actually an inset. If you see this right here, there's stairs going up to the upstairs. And right here is actually a inset bookshelf all the way up to the ceiling. So we're going to be actually going right over that. There's a couple of different mediums that we're going to be going over. So we're going to we'll walk you through that and why we're choosing to do some of the things that we're doing. So how we would put veneer on that is not the same as how we put veneer on the backer board. Obviously that's drywall right now, so that's all going to have to come off. Backer board is going to have to come on. And then obviously they have some tubing that they put in here. That's a smart idea because we want to fish cables through for television. They're going to mount a television here, so the bracket's already in place. We'll be cutting around those for them. Again, we'll be wrapping the hearthstone. We'll be doing corners. We've got a corner right over here actually. So these corners, they got the finished edge on both sides, so that'll look really sharp, you know, coming right around there. We'll be closing off that outlet. That was an old outlet that's abandoned now. There's another one down there we'll be trimming around. But we'll be going basically from that back corner all the way up and around this corner, trimming around the hearth, trimming around the fireplace, butting up to the hearth there, trimming around the mantle rather, and covering that bookshelf, and then again around that interior. That'll be a little tricky. It's really tight quarters. And so there's going to be a small area to work in, so we'll have to do that a little bit by little bit in order to squeeze in there and not disturb the veneer that we put in. So yeah, so we will be back once we get this rocking and rolling, and we'll kind of talk you through it as we're doing it, and we'll video us as we're going. So the first thing we're going to do is we have to move all of this stone with the homeowner stacked here. We're going to get that out of the way, and then we're going to score right down the inside corner of that drywall with a sharp utility knife. You definitely want to score that because there is drywall tape and mud in that corner. If you don't score that with a nice sharp utility knife, get that deep, it will not come off properly. You'll have damage to the exterior wall that we don't want to touch. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll get this moved first. We'll actually get some drop cloths down here. We want to protect the floor from any mortar. We want to try to keep the dust down, that kind of thing. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that drywall off. We're going to be removing some trim up against the ceiling trim over here, this trim piece, that's going. We'll actually take the TV bracket down. There's going to be a couple of pipes that's protruding out, so that doesn't interfere with the veneer. We'll go ahead and get that unscrewed. The pipes will stay. We'll just cut around those, and we'll get to it. So I'll check back with you guys in a little bit. So we have all the drywall pulled off here. About ready to pop some nails, but I'll show you. Got a couple of things going on here. We realized that the ledger here for the mantle is pretty flimsy, so we're going to replace that. We're going to beef that up a little bit. So that's one thing that we'll do. And then as we're taking the drywall off, I notice a little bit of a problem with some of the studding. So that's not what you want to see. So we have that going on, and then over on this side, it goes up to the wall. You can see the movement in that. It's probably, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch worth of movement. So we'll get up there, see what's going on with that, remount it, and reinforce this wall before we put any backer board on there. But everything's looking good so far. So we were able to get the old hearthstone out, and we'll be able to mock that up. We have the backer board on here for all the tile. Was able to get our fish hole cut around. Next time we stop in, we'll be carving out around here. Now there is an access panel right there that there was prior to us getting here, so we're thinking about developing some sort of a door that has stone over it that maybe can get screwed on. That'll come right off of there, and you won't even notice that it's a door, but I feel better having some sort of access there, so we'll work on that. We'll end up meshing this, probably put some mechanical anchors in that, have some mesh in there and some mortar. Spent a good amount of time fixing our structural issues on this far corner. There's a lot of loose studding there. Wasn't very well framed in, so we were able to shore that up quite a bit. So I feel better about that now. So pretty productive day one. Just wanted to give you an update on where we stood at the end of the first day, and we'll check in with you guys tomorrow. So we were able to get the backer board on all the way up to the ceiling. The shelf unit here, we're going to put some mesh over that and skim coat that. So there's uneven depth here that we have to make up. So we're going to, between the mesh and the skim coat, we'll be able to even that out. Up at the top, we found once we removed the trim, there's a small little piece up there that needed to be reinforced that had nothing behind it, so we had to reinforce that. And then on this right here, this little cutout, got the demo done on this side, and then over on this side we have some issues with nailers, some more framing that we're gonna have to shore up over here. So obviously that wasn't done properly. Once we cut this out here, took a razor blade, scored that nice and neat coming down through there. We'll put a 2x4 that'll span that gap right there, and then we'll be able to actually shore up the edge of the backer board for the stone. And we'll want the stone to actually come about a 1/2 inch over onto this drywall. That way it'll be a nice finished edge all the way down through. You won't see any gaps there whatsoever. But certainly want to take care of this, do some additional framing here before we seal this off. There's a utility room back here too that's in a crawl space, so we'll want to be careful not to do any damage there. We got electrical and plumbing coming up through, so we'll mark out these studs, make sure that we hit those studs right on center. Alright, so we're up here on scaffolding. I got a 6-foot scaffolding up here. We're addressing this area of wood right here that has this lacquer finish on here. So what we did was we got some expanded metal lath. We want to have these cupped face up, so when we put the thin set on there, or the stone veneer mortar, it's going to actually hold and make a better bond. And then we have the Tech washers and screws here. If you get a little closer look here, you'll see it's got a wide head on it that'll actually adhere and not allow that metal lath to pull out. So this will be all skimmed over. So from here, this joint right here, all the way over to the wall, we'll have a skim coat because this is actually recessed a little bit. So we're building this out, making a chemical and a mechanical connection here. And then over on this drywall here, we've taped this off. It's always a good idea just to run a little bit of painter's tape down through here. Use that frog tape. That works a lot better than the blue painter's tape. And that'll help to keep that clean. Clean up and go a lot easier. We'll skim coat over here. That way if this area of the drywall gets dirty, that's not going to be a problem. That's going to be covered with the stone veneer. But anything out this way that's going to be exposed once the stone veneer is on, we want to keep that nice and clean. So once this skim coat gets on, we'll be able to take this painter's tape down on the outside edge, and then we'll let that cure 24 hours, and then we'll be able to do the stone veneer mortar. All right, so we have our skim coat on here on the side of that bookshelf. We were able to wire mesh that, mechanically anchor it with the metal lath screws. When you put the metal lath on, there's a smooth side and there's a rough side. You always want the rough side kind of facing up. It's like a cheese grater. So if you run your hand down that cheese grater, you'll want the holes in an orientation that allows you to, when you run your hand down the wall, that's the sharp side. So it's going to create kind of like a little basket for that skim coat to hang on. But we were able to make up the difference in depth there with the skim coat. Set up really nice overnight. You let that set overnight, and then what you'll want to do is come in the following day with a trowel and just lightly scrape down the surface of that. That's going to allow any of that loose debris from the skim coat to fall off of there. You don't want any of that to be in between your veneer mortar and the thin set. So if you scrape that down, vac that all up, you should be ready to go ahead and lay the veneer on top of that. We have our mantle ledger here. We need to build that out a little bit more. Once we get the stone on there, the stone depth is actually going to protrude out enough on this 2x4 that we're going to actually add another 1x on the outside of this. Screw that in nice and tight, so that way that gives us a little bit more material on top of that mantle to be able to anchor that in a new location. So that's still always going to be removable. So we'll do stone all the way around the outside edge of this mantle, and then the homeowners can always pop this off, take the mantle off, and not have any issue there. So we'll go ahead and do that, and then we'll start cutting this hearthstone. We'll shim that so it lays right on top of the laminate. We talked to the homeowner about that, and that's their preference there. But we'll go ahead and shim that, and that'll be glued to the floor. We won't mortar that. We'll go ahead and glue it. And then it's veneer time. So we'll be coming in with veneer. The veneer will only go up about 3 foot per day as per the requirements on the mortar. But we do have our shutoff here for the gas side. We have a pipe here that allows you to fish the wire up and through to the back of the television. So that's nice. That side goes over into the utility room, so we wanted to make sure we maintained access there. That'll all be cut around. And then right here where this gas shutoff is, we cut that door. That's going to be a removable door. So when we go ahead and put the veneer on, it'll be a little tricky. We should be able to get this squared around though. Corners will come around here. And then at that point where the corners stop, we will go ahead and mortar the squares or the flats onto the removable door, and those will actually be drilled through and screwed onto the studding that we put behind it. So that way if they ever needed to get into that shutoff or that valve, they can always remove the veneer without having to destroy the stone, take that off, and then do whatever service work they need to on that side, and then be able to pop it right back in, and it'll be like they were never in there. As you can see here, we're going to be putting a shelf in. That was kind of a last minute addition by the homeowners. We talked about it beforehand. They were going to put a shelf in, never had time to before they left town, so we're going to go ahead and take care of that for them. What we're actually going to do is where the hearth comes in, hearth is coming around this way and back in underneath where this firewood box is. They do want to have a shelf here so they can put their electrical components on top of that shelf. So what we plan on doing is taking the remainder of that hearthstone and we'll use it as a shelf. So we'll build up our veneer right straight up to the bottom of this, and we'll use this bottom ledge as our resting place for the shelf. The shelf will be a 2-inch shelf because that's the size of the hearthstone. That way it's not wasted material, but we'll be able to take that completely out, and it'll basically be removable. And that shelf we will end up putting right above that door. So we'll go ahead and we'll figure all that out and make sure that that's above the door, and we shouldn't have any problems there. So we went and scraped all that off, all that loose debris. Occasionally you will get areas like this where it's a little bit raised. There's a little bit of a, peak there, a little bit of a peak right here that'll interfere with your veneer stone. So you'll just take your trowel as you're doing the veneer and just kind of knock that off. That'll come right off of there. You don't want to be too rough with it, but yeah, it should be able to knock right off there. Once you get a solid day into it, that thin set, if it's done right, it's not going to go anywhere. So you can chop away at it and not hurt it. So and then this is not a big area either. This is probably 9 foot by 13.5 inches wide, and just from that, you come down here, you'll see that's all of that debris, all that loose debris. There's quite a bit of it, so you do not want to have that interfering. You don't want to have that in the middle of your veneer and your substrate. All right, guys, this is the end of day 3. Spent part of today, it wasn't quite a full day, but we came to a stopping point where we need to wait overnight. Today was hearthstone setting day. We lost yesterday because we found an imperfection in the top of the hearthstone. When we unbailed it from the pallet, there was a couple of divots in the top of that didn't make us happy, so we took that back and got a different one. So we went ahead and rock faced the front and ends. Actually, the front came rock faced. We rock faced the edge there, cut it to length, cut a piece for inside here. We had to mortar that all down. To add to some of the fun, we found that the fireplace is not square. That was already installed, was not built by us, so that was interesting. We're a good solid inch off square, and the floor is not level. So we had to make some decisions there when we were putting the hearth in, because our veneer has to be completely level. And we also found that the fireplace box itself was not exactly level, it's slightly off. However, I don't think that that's going to be very noticeable. We did also cut the stone for the shelf that's going in that area, so that's ready for us to put in. So next time you'll see us, we will start installing the stone around the bottom, and around the inside we'll go up 3 or 4 feet, which is about the max we're going to be able to get on the type of mortar that we're using. And hopefully we can get up close to, if not past, where the mantle is going back in. And then we'll go straight up. Once we get past this, it's going to be quite easy going up through. Did a quick consolidation of our tools. Quick mop down. There's a mop right there. We always try to keep the job site as clean as possible. It's fairly chaotic when you're doing a project like this, but if you can keep things clean, keep the floor clean, so you're not walking on dust and raising it up into the air, then all the better. So we will see you guys next time when we start the veneer, and I'll give you an update. All right, today we are going to be sticking the veneer. We got the mortar. We're all ready to go with the thin set there. It'll just be a bunch of cutting up and around here. We're going to try to see if we can come right to this edge here. That's where the client wants us to come to, the inside edge of that blue tape. So we'll have to use a different medium here than we will here to stick the veneer. We'll be able to do a mortar based right here, and then we'll have to do an adhesive based here where it comes over the trim piece. We'll see where the factory edge is. I think we're going to be a little bit short of that mark with the factory edge, so we'll let that be the call of our client, whether or not they want a smaller piece here or not. That tends to be problematic if you have a little tiny piece at the end. So we'll deal with that. And I forgot to mention last time around with the hearth that we put in, we finished off with just sealing that. You can kind of see that shiny piece right there. That is actually just some silicone caulk. So that'll allow it to, any wood that gets thrown in this box, if it's snowy and melts off, they're not going to have any issues with water getting down below the hearth and rotting the subfloor. So we sealed that all the way around here just to make sure that there was no issues with that. And then also where these two meet, there's a little seam right there for this hearth piece. There's actually silicone in between those, so you don't see it at the top, so it's not obvious at the top, but it is in between there, so that's all sealed up. So we'll get going on this thin set and the veneer, and then we'll check back in with you guys later. Here's where we're currently at. Day 2 of veneer. Day 1, we got up and around to about this level here. Right there is our natural sandstone black shelf. We got about to that level, right straight across and wrapped around. So today we are starting to cut up and around. We have the access holes back here for the television. We have access over there into the utility room. And then we're coming back around here. We're cutting up and around the hearth. We have adhered some pieces of veneer right here to match up with our lines. We'll carry this line right straight across. That'll be the factory edge line. And then until the adhesive makes a good stick, we got that prop there. That's going to help to prevent anything from sagging while it cures up. And then, yeah, we're coming up and around this. Again, we're going to do a hybrid here where we'll have mortar up top on the backer board, adhesive on the metal. And we only have a couple more holes to cut. We'll be drilling a hole there for that utility access. And then there's going to be a hole right there and a hole right there for pipe that will actually protrude out just slightly past the veneer for a television mount. So once we get past that, it'll go really quick. We'll be able to go right straight up to the ceiling, cut that angle, and then it's up to cleanup. So keep in mind when you guys are doing this, you'll always want to have your hearth. You can kind of see even how messy it gets. No matter how experienced you are, you're always going to have things dripping. So always make sure it's covered. Make sure you always have, it's just easier to cover it and protect it now than to try to clean it up later. So we will check back in with you guys when we're all the way up to the ceiling. All right, here we go, guys. Here's the finished product. We got our black sandstone hearth here. We just finished cleaning that up. We're able to wipe down the glass here. Do a little bit of mortar around the outside edges of this just to kind of fill in those gaps. We got our black sandstone shelf here. Our beautifully stained mantle. This stone veneer, it's the silver travertine. It's a panel style that comes all the way around the corner and all the way up to the ceiling. And that's about 13.5 feet over in that far corner. And then right here we have our television mount. And as you can see up underneath here, let's see if I can get an angle for you. Right there you can see a PVC pipe that's mounted there just to get that television mount out and away from the larger stone. We have a thicker stone here. So that helps to get that out and away from the stone, mounts that nice and clean. So that's back on for the client. Everything is consolidated, cleaned back up. Just finished taking a mop through just any minor dust that we protected it pretty well during the whole process, but we always want to make sure that we take a quick mop to everything when we're done. But this one turned out beautiful. We're happy with the way that all came together. It was tight quarters, but we were able to make that work. And it's a beautiful stone. This fireplace definitely makes this property now. So again, in my opinion, I'm biased, but if you have a wood burning fireplace, you need to have it surrounded by stone. It just makes it feel so much more homey. So I hope this was helpful. Feel free to leave any comments. And if you ever need any of this work done and you're local, feel free to give us a buzz. We're Elegant Estates and we're located in Lansing, New York. And you can always call the office at 533-3699. That's area code 607. Again, it's 607-533-3699. Or you can always find us online at www.elegantestateinc.com, and we'll leave that description in the description as well. So feel free to check us out and give us a buzz. Thanks.